All right, folks, it is the Remodelers on the Rise show. It is usually most always, a live show. And today I have, how many times have you been on the show or hosted the show, Dave Pollard, with LivCo?
I think I was on with you twice, and then I got to host with Michael once, and we went
Yes.
like 15, 20 minutes long.
Oh, we
It
ain't gonna
was
do that
it was
today,
bad.
though.
No, I would never
People
do
have
that.
people have
Yeah.
things to do, people to see. Um, but you have been a guest. We've talked about a variety of topics, and there was kind of that fun thing where you and Michael Anschel, I think I was out of town on vacation and I wanted to do a show, and the idea came up of having guest hosts, which was a lot of fun. So I appreciate you coming on the show today. It's kind of a very specific show. There's something that Dave had posted in the Remodelers community board, and it was something related to the sales process, and it was kind of just something fresh and new and practical. And we thought, you know what, let's go ahead and just share how you're doing that and what you're doing there. So that's what we're going to do today. But Dave, we have some other business to take care of before we get into that.
Let's do it.
And you're doing well?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to let you introduce yourself, and then we're going to get into the topic today. But we got something new, people. We got something brand spanking new on the Remodelers on the Rise show. And what that is the Remodelers on the Rise show is now sponsored. I won't talk about it on every show, but you'll hear it on the recording. You'll hear it on the live show. It'll pop up here and there. And it is sponsored by Canvas.io. Now, Canvas, I have always been, I just want to tell kind of a quick story of how this came about. I have always not really pursued, I've thought about it, but I've never really pursued sponsorships of any kind. I've always kind of tried to make a very authentic, very just organic kind of feeling community. And I thought, well, sponsorships, that might change the look and feel. But I had it in my head about a year ago. I said, if somebody approached me and it made sense, at that point, maybe I would entertain a sponsorship. And Dave, when I was telling you about it, you're like, well, Kyle, it's not a big deal. It's not like you're a nonprofit.
True.
That is true. I mean, that is true. That is true. Formerly there were diapers to pay for. Now I got to start thinking about college stuff. I mean, got to make a couple bucks here. Okay, so I have your permission.
Yep.
So
I'm looking forward
Canvas.
to your shoe.
Yes.
When your
So
shoe comes out is going to be
when
really
what comes out?
Your shoe? Are you going to have like a Kyle Hunt Nike?
Interesting thought. Who knows? Who knows? The future is bright. Certainly a hat. I need to get more hat gear. So Canvas reached out to me a couple months ago, and it got my attention because Canvas.io is a software program that I've had many of my clients have already been using it. And it's already been something that's been very helpful to streamline their process, to save them time. And I've had several clients just raving about it. So when they approached me, I said, well, we should talk. And then one thing led to another, and now they are sponsoring the podcast. So a couple things just to kind of get rolling with that. If you search Canvas, a couple things will pop up. Make sure it says LIDAR 3D measurements. Okay. And Bailey will also post in the comments a direct link of where you can download it. But download this app, and the basic overview of it, and I'll keep unpacking it and telling you more about it as the weeks roll on, is you'll take your fancy iPad or your fancy iPhone, and you will step into that kitchen that you are measuring. And instead of pulling out your ruler or et cetera, you are going to scan the room. And it scans it at a very high level of detail. You are going to receive that, and you can have some as-built, boom, right then and there. They have some options where you can submit it to them. They can send it back to you as a chief architect file or other files, and it saves you a tremendous amount of time. It works really, really well. It gets a lot of details out there. And Dave, you don't use it, but I bet you if you started using it, you'd fall in love with it.
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion about it on the Remodelers community yesterday. A lot of good things were said for sure.
There we go.
A lot of excitement behind it.
Excellent. So if you do that, there's a discount code RISE2022, and you get $100 that can go towards your first scan. So, okay, I'll keep practicing how I do those commercials. That one was a little bit more of kind of explaining this new thing that's going on, but do check out canvas.io, and you'll hear more about it in the future. And commercial. Did I do that all right?
It's awesome.
Okay. So Dave Pollard, LivCo. Dave, tell people about where you're at, the type of work you do, and just give them a quick little background, and then we'll dig into today's topic.
Sure. We're design build remodelers in the Chicago suburbs. So we are coming up as our 10th year in business. So we are owned by me and my partner, Russ. I'm an architect and he's a former home builder. So we try and provide, larger scale whole house remodels, additions, things of that nature. So smaller projects aren't really great for us, but we do a lot of kind of bigger transformative projects for sure.
With a very heavy bend towards design and creating really beautiful things. Seems like you're not big into just run of the mill.
No, everything is extremely unique, from our clients to the houses that we work in to kind of our proposed solutions. So yes, not a whole lot of, assembly line action happens in the project types that we do.
Okay, love it. So the thing we're talking about today, we could talk about all kinds of things, but the thing we're talking about today is something that Dave is doing at near the start of his sales process, to start to build. I always talk about how marketing, the definition of marketing is getting someone who has a need to know, like, and trust you. To build know, like, and trust. And frankly, you can define a lot of sales like that too. And I'll kind of walk up to maybe the point we're going to talk about, Dave, and correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody reaches out to you. We have an initial conversation. We see that it's a pretty good fit to move on to the next step. You schedule that first official meeting. So far, so good?
Yep.
Okay. And then you go into a little software program that we'll talk about exactly what it is. You add them to a certain sequence or automation. And in the meantime, as I am waiting for my appointment that's maybe a week out, maybe 10 days out, I am receiving a series of emails from you that give me a little bit of insight into who you are, how you roll, a little bit of your personality comes through, a little bit of your attention to detail and how you look at things. And it's helping build know, like, and trust with the prospect so that when you do see me officially for the first time, there's a lot more depth to what I already know based on getting those emails and communications. How did I summarize it?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
You got it.
So tell us the strategy behind it. When did you start doing this? What were you doing in the past? How's it working?
We started doing it about a year and a half ago, I think. What we used to do, right, is we didn't do Zoom calls with prospects. They would call the office or email, and then admin or I would set up an appointment time and be this back and forth. It was like the biggest pain in the butt to try and figure out a time that worked for everybody. So when we switched to Zoom calls, one thing that happened is we had a lot more meetings to schedule because people were sitting at home and had nothing to do. So the first thing that we did was figure out Calendly, which just allowed people to schedule that Zoom in a specific window. And then what we found is all of a sudden I would be sitting there and then someone would schedule a Zoom for me like 20 minutes later. So I'm like, well, I can't just have people. Yeah, I need to kind of prepare for it. So we set up, and Calendly has a huge number of options, right? For windows, how close meetings can be together.
Not scheduling it the same day, et cetera.
Right. How many you can have in a whole day. You can set up all kinds of different criteria for when you actually have the meetings. So what I ended up doing is saying, like, I like to plan my week out on Monday, kind of know what I have upcoming. So I didn't want any meetings until a week later. So then people would go in and schedule a meeting. It's like, well, then they're just sitting around for a week. So I said, well, we use MailChimp. So they have these awesome things called customer journeys. So again, this is during the pandemic. So we're all sitting at home, just like trying to learn and get better at stuff because there's not a lot.
So pause. Yep. Most everybody is following you, but I just want to make sure we're following so far. So Calendly is a program, if you've never looked into that you can send a link, and me as a potential client can go through and select a day and a time for me to schedule an appointment. It saves you time. It streamlines it. We avoid that back and forth, and you've tweaked it to work with your schedule. So if you haven't, anybody listening to this who hasn't looked into a program like Calendly, take a peek at that, and that might be a nice way to streamline things. So I like what you're saying there. And then, okay, it's a week out. Are we just going to go radio silent between now and then? And you just brought up another program called MailChimp. So carry on. Just want to make sure really emphasize that.
Yeah, so exactly. So when you book on Calendly, it kicks it automatically into MailChimp, which is a separate software, but all these things integrate now, right? So it kicks into there, it's tagged as a new Calendly lead, and then it starts a sequence of emails that mail off one per day. And the purpose of those is know, like, and trust, but it's also, I'm trying to do my initial sales call in 30 minutes. And that's not enough time for me to talk about what we do. I mean, I could spend forever talking about exactly our process and everything else. So what I'm trying to do is let them, from the comfort of their couch, kind of learn about us through methods other than just combing through our website or things like that. So it's a little bit more curated in terms of bringing them up to speed and our process, who we are, why we do what we do, so that I don't have to spend very much time talking about us on the sales call. I can spend 20 minutes listening to them and then 10 minutes of how I think our process might work for them based on the process that they've already learned. Was really the idea. And some of that came from, I'll give a plug to Mark Harari and Lobster on a Cheese Plate, his marketing book, where he kind of talks about the Apple Store. And people don't go to the Apple Store to be sold on an iPhone. They already know they want the iPhone. They go to the Apple Store to get it, right? Or choose which options they want or see what's available. So I've tried to use whatever kind of technology or set it and forget it type of stuff to tell our story, so that by the time they meet with me, or if I build out a sales team, really I'm just there to answer their questions of the things that didn't make sense to them, or kind of understand their project and how our process could apply to it. That's how that evolved.
So some people, you'll arrive at that initial in-person and there will be, they've already read through them. They've already they might be referencing them, or I've been getting your emails. There's other people, when you say, hey, have you been getting my emails, or have you taken a look at those, who say, no, I saw them come through, I haven't read anything. It's almost a bit of a qualifying tool right there, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. If they can't take a little bit of time to read what we're about, it's not really getting off on the right foot.
Yeah.
Now, I understand people get a lot of emails and immediately like, now this guy's just spamming me. So we'll have that conversation and I don't get mad at them. If they unsubscribe, usually I'm like, really? Come on. I spent a lot of time on that. But it's the intention of them is to prep people for what we do and give them information at their own convenience, and not to, bore them with, random solicitations.
Right. So we got Connie's asking, do you still schedule from phone calls versus just using Calendly?
Great question. Kind of. We usually, so if they call the office, we get their email address, and then Luann, our admin, makes sure to follow up with them with a link to schedule it, because I want them to go through Calendly, because otherwise they might fall off of our kind of lead management trail where someone has to like data enter it, and they won't be in all the automations. So sometimes also they'll want to schedule a time that just doesn't work for my calendar, and I have more time slots where I can make it work, or if it's after hours or on the weekend. But what I ask them to do then is just pick the closest time or the soonest time in Calendly. So then it kicks them into the automations, and then I'll just drag it in the calendar to another time that we can coordinate. Gotcha. So we're trying to get them at the end of the day to get into the system, in the system that we have set up in one way or another, or worst case, our admin will enter it into Calendly, so they're at least into the system.
Okay. And the benefits you have seen from this, how else would you kind of summarize that, or what else have you seen from it?
Yeah, I think I get really good feedback from it. And, if you get our emails, there's a bunch of videos from me talking. So they, I don't want to call it celebrity or whatever, but they're kind of like excited to see the guy in the video, kind of know who I am. If they don't, then, they haven't really taken the time to dig into us. So I think we get a lot of really good feedback. I think when I look at the metrics in MailChimp, which is really cool too, if you dig in, you can see demographics. You can see a lot more information on your leads going through that system than you can just with an email address. And I think we have an 80% open rate on them, which I'm no MailChimp genius, but I think 80% is probably pretty good.
It's pretty high,
mass
yes.
email systems.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
And I think we probably did like 111 last year. So 80% of 111 opened them. So that's pretty good.
That's excellent. So You may have been noticing, I don't know if I sold it right. I have, as I've been listening intently to you and interviewing you, I also have been frantically trying to get my screen share through this StreamYard program to work. And it is not working for me right this minute. So what I would love for you to do actually, you see down at the bottom of your screen, I am about to send you an email. We're going to call a quick audible. What's an audible in football, Mr. Dave?
That's when you change the play
Yes, we're going to
at the
tweak.
last minute.
We're going to tweak the play at the last minute, and I am sending you. And Bailey's probably like, "What's going on? Why isn't it working?" For some reason, my settings are not cooperating. So I am sending you a quick email, and it is a nice PDF that has the examples of the email in them. And I'm wondering if the Audible can be you can share your screen. So if you go down at the bottom of StreamYard and click share, you should be able to select maybe your email inbox, and then you should have an email at the top of your inbox from me, and we will salvage the screen share part. Because next thing I wanted to kind of show is just examples of the emails that you're sending out to kind of spark some creativity and some details for people to embrace this idea and perhaps use it.
Sure. I am awaiting your email.
Okay. And
Stuck in the wire.
do you see down at the bottom where you can click share inside StreamYard?
I do see the share. I just don't have your email yet.
Okay. All right.
Is this live?
Oh, it's live. We are live audibling. We're live. So as you're waiting for that, and we're going to pull up those emails, tell me something else. Here's another audible. Tell me something else that's on your mind these days. What's something that's working in your remodeling business, or what's something that you've been thinking about as we buy ourselves a minute or two?
Oh, something that I've been thinking about. Oh, there's always all kinds of stuff going on. Yeah, that's a pretty broad question.
It is.
We'll have to have another episode on that.
Okay.
No, I think one thing that's kind of fun, and this is related to what we were talking about before with all of our integrations, is you guys asked me to send you all the emails, and I realized I hadn't looked at them in like over a year. I don't even really totally remember what's in it. It might be like really out of date. So I'm curious if you found anything there. So it's kind of a reminder to a lot of this stuff we kind of set and forget, but we need to kind of circle back to it at least every now and then to make sure it's still relevant, right?
Yeah. One thing I noticed is your hair is a lot longer in the videos that you sent over, right? So they're a little dated. But to your point of, this is part of the game of business. It never ends. There's always things to work on. And right when we have something in place, you look up and you're like, has it really been a year and a half since I put in that work of creating those 5 emails? And kind of setting all that automation up? I wonder if what I said then still is perfectly relevant, or if there's some changes I need to make.
Exactly.
Right. Good.
And I still don't have your email. Did you send it to the right?
I do believe I did. Here's a question though, Dave. Could you give an overview of your organization, staffing, etc.?
Sure. Yeah. So we're at 12 people at our company. I think we'll be at about 4 million this year, which will be across probably 12 to 14 projects. And we have, I think, 5 folks in design. So we have Sarah, who's kind of our front end designer and in charge of the design team. Christopher, who's an architect, Matt, who's an architect, and then Anna and Audrey are our interior design team. And then in construction, we have a project manager, a site manager, and a field technician. And then we have admin. So I do all of our marketing functions and kind of design support and design oversight. And then Russ, my partner, does all the kind of HR administrative and top of the construction food chain, if that makes sense.
Cool. Thank you, Connie.
So we don't self-perform work. We just have one kind of guy swinging a hammer in the field. And other than that, we subcontract our construction work. Got it. And I did receive your email.
Okay. Right. So once you pull that up, it'll open up a PDF, and then you're going to click share, and then we're going to be able to see it. Here's a good question. Amy asked, do you ever tend to distance yourself from clients or projects who are less tech savvy, even though it seems like a good project?
Intentionally. So I don't think we're not going to turn down a working with somebody because they don't want to use Calendly. you know, if they're a good fit. Like I'll turn around and have a phone conversation with them. But I'll tell you that, especially after the pandemic and people being used to Zoom and all that stuff and FaceTime, 95% of people have absolutely no problem with technology. Some people with like, you know, electronic payments and things like that, they'd rather just bring a check by. That's probably our biggest kind of technology barrier. Everybody else, for the most part, we don't haven't seen a whole lot of challenges with that.
Excellent. All right, so now I'm sharing your screen, and we've got this. We also have a friendly face here, Dave. Just to thank you for being awesome. You too,
Hey,
Connie.
Jeff. No, you're awesome. Look at those sunglasses.
Yeah, he is pretty sharp looking there. Oh, summer! I bet you that's summertime in Michigan. That's coming up, folks. Spring is coming. Okay, so talking of technology sometimes doesn't work great, but this is a little PDF. So I posted a link as a comment. If you guys click this will pull up. But Dave was generous enough to say, yeah, share the emails that we're sending out if people can see it. Because again, what we're talking about here is how do we continue to enhance our sales process? How do we build know, like, and trust early in the process? The big thing I heard that Dave said while I was trying to get the clicking working right, is, you know, there's so many things that I want to tell new prospects about who we are, how we work. And if I can get them to review that, to watch some videos, to read about that ahead of time, it just makes the sales process so much smoother and better. Again, that's the strategy. That's what we're talking about here, is how do we enhance and build more know, like, and trust up front in the process. So if you scroll down here, Dave, we just have the 5 emails that you send out.
Is that working?
Yep, it's working great.
Okay.
Yep, so I don't know if we can zoom in on this, but this is basically a screenshot that you took of MailChimp, and you've got some tech skills, so you're going to help us out here. Describe what this is. This is just kind of the sequence that happens, correct?
Yeah. So when you in MailChimp, if you go to, I think it's automations and customer journeys, it's really, really cool. So basically when they join our audience, which has a filter that if it comes from Calendly and that integration, or no, they join our audience, then if it's yes, that they join through the Calendly Zoom link, then it kicks into this sequence. So that is, whoops, what did I do? They receive the email. So this shows that since we've been doing it, we've sent 213, 80% have opened it. I can click on that. I can get all kinds of different metrics of what's going on with that. When
you scroll up a little bit higher, again, what you have is Calendly and MailChimp are talking to each other. When this comes through, if it's yes, it's from Calendly, they get added to this sequence of events, these automations. And yes, like you said earlier, you've sent this 213 times, an 80% open rate is a very high open rate, which means people are receiving it, they're interested, they're opening it up. So that's cool. And then you have a time delay after that.
Yep. So there's the little hand thing's not working.
Yeah,
here.
It's a little tricky.
Yeah. So then I set it to a 1-day time delay, which you can set that. I don't know why.
I just want to say, yeah, there we go.
And then there's a second email, and let's see some other stuff that you can do here. So if I want to click on metrics, so I have links in there. It tells them, please do the questionnaire, which they've heard about like 4 times. I can see how many people have clicked on that link. There's a video that you can watch. I can see how many people actually watch the video, you know, how many people follow us on social media. So there's a lot of information that you can get from these too. So we have 5 emails, and in this sequence, we have 1 per day. Plus, when they sign up for Calendly, they get an email automatically that says, hey, we're going to send you a bunch of emails. And basically, this is just to kind of get you up to speed, you know, and here's our email address if you want to reach out in the meantime.
Perfect. So as you scroll down past that, what you'll see is we have the emails that are actually sent. So if you want to scroll down on the right-hand side there, you should be able to get to.
Out here.
Yep. So it got rid of some of the formatting, but we can kind of get a feel for it. So you got a little header at the top there, talks about the journey, and then the first thing they see is a video from you talking about your process and who you guys are.
Yep. And then here we ask them to fill out the questionnaire.
Tell us about the questionnaire.
Tell you about it?
Yeah.
It's just a basic 1-page questionnaire that's just asking them somewhat general questions. I think the ones that I zoom in on the most are, do you have a general budget in mind? I don't ask what their budget is, but do you have a budget that you're thinking about? And sometimes people be like, I can't spend more than 50 grand. That's helpful. The other one that's really important to me, especially here in Chicago, is how long do you plan to live in your home? If they say 1 to 2 years, the first thing I say to them is like, I don't recommend remodeling. If they say this is my forever home, it's like, you're in the right spot, because we can make this, your forever home. So I think there's probably about 10, 15 questions that just kind of dig in more than how many square feet do you want and things of that nature.
I like it. So, and would you be happy to send that example of the questionnaire to people that ask?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So if you even reach out to, what we normally do is just, if you reach out to Bailey at remodelersontherise.com, and you ask for just the examples of the email, which will have a link to the questionnaire, Dave is generous and he would be more than happy to share that, and we'll send it over to you. So then what we're seeing here at Master Builders, teamwork makes the dream work, bonus material. Teamwork makes the dream work. What I noticed in these emails, and as people look through them, one thing I mentioned was, I said at the top, I said, they also kind of get a feel of how you roll. And what I meant by that is the subject lines and also what you're writing. You guys are not a stuffy organization. I know this just by reading your emails. Like, teamwork makes the dream work. You have some fun things that are kind of mixed in, which gives people a feel of who you guys are, your culture, how you are to deal with, and your creativity. Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, I think the second email is, what's the title? Oh,
that was the measure twice, cut once.
It's the third one, because they're getting tired of our emails, right? So the third one goes, isn't it? Yeah, we are big nerds, right? So like, this is who we are. We're really nerdy about houses. Yeah, we try and have a little bit of fun with it. Another video of me just geeking out over a house, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Whoops. So have you filled out our questionnaire yet? If so, thank you. If not, we promise it is short and sweet and very helpful
to us. Right. So even as you're scrolling down, you're highlighting some projects and some videos you've had created of projects. You're talking a little bit about your team. I saw as you were scrolling back, you just reiterated to them the steps in the process and what to expect. And again, I am a prospect who has reached out to you. We have talked already. We got the Calendly thing set up, or even if we haven't talked, we got the Calendly thing set up, and you're getting these emails to help build know, like, and trust in who we are.
You got it.
I like it.
And then I think the last one, sorry.
I think I said that wrong earlier, Dave. People are reaching out. You haven't talked to them yet. They reach out and get Calendly, and this is setting up your initial conversation with them, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
I think I misspoke on that earlier.
So they've either contacted us through our website or just booked it immediately, or they've called the office and they've talked to Luann, but they haven't talked to me.
Okay, good. And I apologize for messing that up earlier.
We were talking.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you could do these for the rest of the journey after you talk too, right? All the follow-ups to that stuff. We make that one a little bit more personal, because we know them and it's kind of already narrowed down at that point.
Right. And that's where automation can get a little tricky once we've had that conversation and maybe we've talked about or we've learned something new. To have some automation going on after that, you may see some things of like, I don't think I'd send that to them based on the conversation I already had. But automation up front here can make a lot of sense. Somebody said, well done. They like that. Connie asked, is Zoom linked to Calendly?
Yes, 100%.
Yep. So we fill out the Calendly form and boom, there's the Zoom information. They get the reminder. They can add it to their calendar. And then also Calendly is linked to MailChimp to automatically send these emails out.
Yeah, it's beautiful. We don't have to do anything. So I was going to say, so then the last one. So this is all that fun stuff that I was on the show with you, I don't know, years ago talking about. I remember. All of our COVID fun marketing stuff. This is all the stuff that we kind of made during the time. So you hate for it to just be buried. So we throw it in the email. You can see our funny videos where we did, our Brady Bunch video. Let's get some more value out of it. It still exists, right? Yep. So we're just throwing all the other content in here just for.
Yeah, you had that paper house. You had some coloring sheets, just some creative, interesting, fun things.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'd say for doing this a year and a half ago, these feel like they're holding up pretty nicely.
Well, we have some good stay-at-home fun available on our website, so I can probably change that.
Yeah, there you go. Jeff said, great work, Dave. Awesome to see. Does your growth plan include future salespeople? How will you adapt this?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's what we've really been trying to set up is there's not a whole lot to close the sale if we've prepped them appropriately. And so when we talk to them, if they really understand, and we've done our legwork to help them understand exactly how we work, and they can figure that out on their own free time, when our sales team meets with them, the thinking is it's really kind of more ours to lose at that point. They're looking for a reason not to hire us. Haven't fully tested that, but that's kind of the hope.
I like it.
I think it helps.
So we called an audible, and it was a little clunky, but it worked.
Yeah,
worked. Thank you for bailing us out there. And what I'm seeing in this is just to, we haven't in the last couple of years talked a lot about marketing. If you even go back and listen to Remodelers on the Rise shows, and kind of if you looked at the topics and themes, marketing has not been priority number one. For the sales process definitely has been an ongoing conversation of how do we attract the right clients and repel the wrong clients? How do we do that through how we're charging for design and project development? How do we do that and how we differentiate ourselves? And what we're showing here is just a nice example of one continuing to embrace technology. If you have not made any progress related to technology in your remodeling business in the last 6 months, well, that's not good, is it, Dave?
No.
Okay, I was going to say shame on you, but that seems excessive. That's not necessary because everybody's been busy. So embracing technology, doing some work up front to have something that you can push a button and it automatically happens. You've sent that 213 times, let's say 200 times, you've sent 1,000 emails out, and it literally took you the time to set up the technology up front. Think about the amount of time savings we have there. And then you've got tremendous open rates. So by the time you get on the phone, there's already some know, like, and trust built. They're learning about who you guys are, and it's helping you attract and repel the right and wrong clients. So those are a couple of my takeaways from this, and seeing the emails is very helpful. How else would you kind of summarize maybe a key point or a key takeaway that you think folks should have from this?
Yeah, I think this is something that I've been thinking about a lot over the last year, because I think a lot of our peers and people who aren't as professional as well don't take phone calls anymore or turn down lead meetings. And I don't really understand that. I think that there's tools out there where anybody can schedule a call from me. I mean, the whole idea is saying like, no, I'm not going to talk to anybody. We're too busy, and I can't figure out a system where I can talk to someone for 30 minutes and figure out if they're going to be a great project for us in 2024. This kind of gives us the opportunity to keep the door open to everybody without overwhelming an already overwhelmed society or company at this point, from sales, design, and production. So it really just makes that a lot simpler for everybody and allows us to keep the door open.
I like that. Amy said it's a lot of added value, very clean and simple for a very complex task for homeowners. Jim said, are you trying to close the big sale all at once, or are you trying to close the design process first?
Great question, Jim. So we have a two-step design process.
Because what Dave is saying there, Jim, is, okay, this automation and this MailChimp stuff, that was fun, but now you got me talking about design. Now you're lighting up like a Christmas tree, Dave.
Well, no, I think, when I talk to him for 30 minutes, that's not to get him to buy a $500,000 remodel. It's to get him to buy, a $6,500 first step of our design process. So I'm not overwhelming them with everything else. I'm really kind of working on what they need to know about the first step, and then how we help get beyond that.
I love that. But what I was saying is, you love talking about design.
I do.
Yes.
Next time.
And note what he just said there was, yes, you have this is how we work and a step-by-step of the process. What he was emphasizing is, when you are talking to people about the process, yes, let them know some of the main milestones and steps, but 80% of your time should be focused on selling the next step. And in your case, when we look through those emails, it's very heavy on the value and importance of design first. I saw that phrase in there, and because you're selling very clearly the next step in the process. So that is a great question, Jim. And yes, most of the time just on that next step, which a lot of times is the design and project development side of things. Excellent.
Yep.
Excellent. Cool. So I'm in a new space. I'm coming back from spring break. I'm knocking some rust off. The technology wasn't working, but luckily I had a wonderful guest today. Dave, I appreciate your willingness to share this kind of a unique thing that we haven't talked about much. I think it sparked some people's thoughts on what they can work on and implement and do something similar. So thanks so much, my friend.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
You betcha.